Welcome to Women Making News Live. I'm your host, Demi Hicks, and our special guest today is Elyssa Byck, the co-founder and CEO of Kindred. Elyssa, welcome to Women Making News.
Demi, it's so good to see you. Thank you for having me.
It is great to see you too. Thanks for joining us. And Elyssa, our audience wants to hear about Kindred and they want to learn more about you. So let's get started.
Let's go.
All right. So we are living in complex, challenging, and uncertain times. And given this time, what is Kindred's role in advancing leadership? And take it further, why?
Well, let me just kick off first again by saying thank you for having me and thank you for being part of the Kindred community. It's just wonderful to be here, and it just shows how many organizations have started to actually have an impact on our society, on our shareholders, but also on our stakeholders. And the work that you do every day is another example of that. I'll take a little bit of a step back just to say what Kindred is for anyone who's watching today. Kindred is a professional network that was built to support leaders who are committed to advancing ESG and DEI principles within their organizations. Every single day, we work with our members, Demi included, to connect and support business leaders to a community of peers and a community of experts. What that means is we're helping our members strengthen their leadership skills, build their network, and also increase their impact within and outside of their organizations. And so Kindred was built and we started in 2020. And so Demi, as you talk about, an evolving business landscape, a time of unrest, we're all living through it. As humans, we're living through it. Every single day, there seems to be something else to react to almost. And that doesn't go away just because we're at work. Whether you're working from your home like we are today or working from an office, the evolving business landscape is something that every single professional needs to be ready for. And that doesn't change if you're in an entry-level position or in a position of leadership. And so Kindred as an entity, we became obsessed with future-minded leaders, people who have raised their hand to say, I want to make a more informed decision tomorrow. I want to learn today. And so in the way that we spend every single day offering networking opportunities, education on ESG through the lens of business, and offering leadership development through executive coaching, we take a look at this future of work as an evolving landscape. And in order to build agility, to improve resilience, to reduce burnout, to make sure your team is motivated, to increase retention, all of that requires an investment in your leaders. And we have seen time and time again that an investment in your leaders is actually going to deliver higher performance and higher retention for those specific people and for their teams. And so as I think about, again, an evolving landscape, a time of unrest, there's no better time to give your leaders a space to show up as humans.
Yeah, so Elyssa, say more about the community. And you just shared a lot there, but say more about the actual community that leaders have access to. How do they show up and connect and let each other know that they're there for one another and learn at the same time, as you've just shared?
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, I belong to multiple communities myself. And I know we've talked about this before, but professional communities historically have been identity-based. I'm a female. I identify as female. I'm a founder. I'm a New Yorker. I'm gay. I'm all of these things. And the Kindred community, for me and for our members, serves as a place where I connect with other leaders who are values aligned, who are mission aligned, people who believe in, similar things that I do, but also challenge me in ways. And so when you join Kindred, you get access not only to the educational tools that we provide, you get access to the social capital. I think about it as a transformation of the learning and development space, a way to not only depend on experts for education, but to be one phone call away from, hey, how are you dealing with this? And it's that one phone call away that really makes a community thrive. We have a private Slack workspace where our members interact. We have a very easy discovery tool so that our members can meet, in a seamless way. And we do have networking events that are live and on virtual. So we're constantly making sure that those synapses are firing between our members.
Yeah. And so what does your membership look like?
Yeah, I love that because we look like an amazing diverse group of people. Kindred was really built for senior leaders, executives and change makers within organizations who are committed to the mission. Our mission since day one has been to redefine leadership. And so we have members that are leaders in the auto industry, in the retail industry, in the tech industry, heads of marketing, finance, communications, HR, leaders who are, again, missions and values aligned. We had a conversation just yesterday where one of our members raised their hand and asked the community, "Hey, I'm looking for a consultant in a very specific space."
Mm-hmm.
The people who responded were from varying departments, varying industries. And it just goes to show you that environmental, social, and governance topics and conversations, whether you're talking about sustainability, climate, empathetic leadership, mental health, COVID-19, employee retention, I mean, the list goes on. But at the end of the day, these are not siloed discussions within a department or industry. These are conversations that everyone is having.
Yeah, yeah. So, Elyssa, you just shared ESG and what ESG is, and DE&I and what DE&I is. But uh, when you look out from your role as the CEO of Kindred and its purpose-driven organization, what is our landscape there as it relates to organizations and leaders and CEOs of organizations saying this is something, not Kindred specifically, but the initiative, this is something we must embrace and take seriously?
Yeah, the landscape has changed dramatically and it feels like it's changing every single day. But the way that I think about Kindred, but also to your point, ESG overall, is that we built this support system because we need it too. There is so much information out there. And these are top of mind conversations for everyone. I mean, if you look at the news in the last week, even, the S&P releasing their, I don't know if you saw the news on Tesla and, I won't go into it, but ESG is a conversation that everyone's having almost daily. And
Right.
what we've learned is that ESG and inclusion, these aren't edge case investments anymore. These are core principles to the way that a business is operating every single day. And this is what's building company culture, company impact, but also company outcomes.
Yeah.
And so for leaders today, I would think about not necessarily what's the news you're reading or what is your specific policy, because we know that policies can lead to systemic change.
Mhm.
But we also know that it's the daily decisions that you make that actually move the needle on a more frequent basis. And that's really why Kindred was built for the individual. And it's for the people, again, who have raised their hand to say, I am committed to this. And I want to make sure that I'm asking the right questions in the forward.
Yes. And so in our audience, we have CEOs from public companies. We have CEOs from privately held who are mid-sized to large organizations. And I know from my own work as a consultant and a coach that there are CEOs that still struggle with how to get on that path and how to start walking down that path to support ESG and DEI. Do you still see those organizations, or are you so deeply seated in the ones that get it?
Yeah, well, to answer that very specifically, we work with people who are taking their first step and people who are taking their 100th step.
Mhm.
And I think the good news, no matter where you are in your journey, is that you've started somewhere. And so to the people that are watching and whether you're a CEO of a Fortune 500 company or you're just starting a company today, I think it's very important to recognize that you can start anywhere as long as you're starting your journey. And what that means to me is that you're starting to ask the right questions, not that you necessarily have the answers yet. Questions like, are you adopting a strong growth mindset for your organization? Is your organization actually ready for an energy transition? Are you embracing new technology? Are you investing in human capital? These are the questions to go back to your team to look in the mirror and say to yourself, is this a priority for me? If it's not, why not? Who are the people supporting me? Do I have teams built around me to actually do this?
Yeah.
Are those teams actually resourced and supported? We've seen so many examples where head of sustainability or head of diversity is put into an organization of 2,000 people with no budget and no team.
Yes.
That's not set up for success. And so I'd ask myself those questions of, is my money where my mouth is? Am I investing in the right places? And am I committed to this?
Yeah, right, right. And it really isn't just a business issue. It's an issue about our humanity, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is, and it's all intertwined. And we talk about intersectionality quite often, whether it's intersectionality of identity or intersectionality of issues, because you can't necessarily talk about one topic without another. And I think that for some makes it super complicated. That am I well versed enough to talk about climate?
Mhm.
Am I confident to talk about social justice? Is
Yeah,
climate related to social justice? Absolutely.
right.
And I think that's where people start kind of snowballing into this conversation. And so again, I'd go back to, if you take anything from this conversation between us today, Demi, I would say that it's okay to start. And
Mm.
just having the confidence to show up, to arrive, to take that first step is usually 99% of what you need in order to get started.
Yeah. So, Elyssa, you've really shared a lot. I mean, Kindred sounds robust in its offering to leaders, leaders of organizations, and um, so let's look at your. Well, let me ask you this first. Of all that Kindred offers, what is its greatest impact? Where is that?
Yeah. So I always go back to community. I think, you just talked about it. Kindred has a robust set of offerings, but at the end of the day, we create connections for people. And that's where we've seen the most magic happen. I do look though to Kindred's ability to show up in unforeseen and significant events, which are unfortunately happening. It feels like daily at this point. But I look to the unfortunate shootings in Buffalo a couple of weeks ago, and our team had put together some resources for our members to talk to their team, to talk to their customers, to care for themselves during this time. And we got notes from our members to say, thank you. Thank you, because I was able to speak to my team differently. I was able to share this resource with my customer. And it's those moments where Kindred is able to show up that gives me pause to say, okay, these are the moments where leaders are being asked to show up. And
Yeah,
if we can help our members move the needle, then we've done our job
yeah,
when
yeah.
we have impact.
Yeah, so as the co-founder, that means you were there from the idea stage, right?
Technically speaking, yeah.
Yeah. So how has Kindred evolved since you mentioned 2020 to its current state, and where do you see it going?
Yeah, well, Kindred has evolved just as quickly as the world evolved. I think is probably the right answer there. Kindred was originally founded in 2019. I joined Kindred originally. We were launching an event, a physical gathering. You might say, what a 2019 idea that was, but at the time, there was a new conversation happening. And I spent my early career in digital media, in digital transformation, which I'm sure we'll speak about.
Yeah.
And the next wave of business transformation was becoming more and more clear because it was squarely centered on environmental, social, and governance issues. And the level of accountability, the new level of accountability in business to show up in the gaps where government wasn't really stepping in was becoming, almost obvious.
Yeah.
And so you have, I mean, how timely is this? We're speaking and Davos is going on. But at the time, we saw a need to start a new conversation, a more accessible conversation about these pretty large global issues. And so the way to do that in 2019 was to start a conference. And so we started Kindred, the event, which was supposed to happen in May of 2020. We had over 200 speakers, multiple panel discussions, and 2,500 guests planning to attend. And then a global pandemic hit. And
Yeah.
so as you start to think about resilience and agility and pivoting evolution, that's exactly what Kindred went through. We looked at a mission, which since day one has been to redefine leadership and to democratize access to all of this information.
Mm.
And we said, how do we show up for people when the mission's actually never been more important, but the execution's impossible in this world? And so instead of doing the work over 3 days at a conference, we went back to the people who had raised their hand and said, look, you can get Kindred for 365 days now. And we pivoted the entire business to a professional network, one that was virtually accessible and over time has created opportunities for members to meet in person. So we launched in October of 2020. I should say we relaunched then. And since then, we've been able to support hundreds of professionals from varying industries and departments, show up for themselves, show up for each other, show up for their organizations to meet the organization's evolving needs, and invest in themselves in order to, be better leaders and, again, more future-minded leaders.
I listen to you, listen, I'm like, I am so glad I'm a member. But I would have said that before you came on the broadcast.
I appreciate it. But I'm equally happy that you're a member.
That's great. So let's do a little bit of a shift here. And if you will, tell us about your leadership practice as a CEO, but just I'm more concerned about your leadership than I am the fact that you're the CEO. And so
Same.
tell us about your leadership practice, and who are your role models?
I'm super fortunate because I have two grandparents, my grandmother and grandfather, who are still married after I don't even know how many years.
Yeah.
And I think it's a testament to their relationship that they've also been able to build a business and work together every single day for the last 50 years.
Amazing.
And in their mid 80s, they commute over an hour every single day and still run this business. And I look at them and, this is, my family, and I talk about inspiration and kind of my heroes. I had, my great grandparents and my great great grandparents had come over from Eastern Europe, settled in New York and Brooklyn. Yeah. And I come from a family of entrepreneurs, people who built their own businesses and had the grit, but also had the humility to understand what resources were available to them and how to build. And so I was just surrounded by that my whole life, understanding that, there really wasn't that much room between work and, your personal life, because it was also intertwined. And I think it was almost refreshing to see the enmeshment that happened, that when you're so passionate about the work that you're doing, it becomes part of who you are in a healthy way.
Yes.
And so when I think about my leadership style, so much of that comes from watching, a group of people who I'm lucky to call my family build their own businesses and do their own work and be so passionate about that work. Yeah. And so my leadership style, who I am as a human, I really think about accessibility and being completely accessible to your team, whether that's a phone call, a text, a video chat randomly, whatever time of day. I try to pride myself on being super accessible. The other thing I think about often is being transparent. And when I say transparent, I think about my team, and I usually say to them, if you're thinking about going somewhere else, I want to be your first phone call. Mm. And, I'm not here to lock people in to this work. I'm here to make sure that everyone on my team can recognize their strengths and apply them to whatever it is they want to do next. And if that's Kindred, that's fantastic. Yeah. And if it's not, that's also amazing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I think about that relationship and how important it is to make sure that you're supporting people's strengths. I think I woke up one morning and I realized that I went to college and I paid to learn. And then you wake up one day and you realize I'm now getting paid to learn, and I'm working. And I typically start my week in my one-on-ones with my direct reports to say, what do you want to learn this week? Not what's your priority list, but what is it that you want to learn? And at the end of the week, we check in again. And if you didn't really go down that path, then let's figure out how to do it next week. Yeah. And then we get to the nitty-gritty. So yeah, I guess I'd say that for now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I just have to ask what what you shared about your grandparents and that they still go to their business. What is their business?
Yeah, sure. Their business is in the optical industry, eyeglasses, manufacturing, importing, and licensing eyeglass frames.
That's fascinating, and they continue to work today. I love it.
It's an amazing thing to watch, and I've learned more about business and entrepreneurship at the dinner table on Friday nights with my family than I have in any meeting or any class.
Sure. So did you get your glasses from them?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, good, good.
I have to support them, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And they probably want to know exactly what glasses you're getting.
Yeah, you know, and I think to your original question, my grandfather, who technically serves as the CEO of this business, there is an infamous meeting that he had where he called a CEO of another company who he was trying to get as his client, and he said, you know, "Hi, my name is Alan, and I just have a question. What is the job of a CEO?" And this on the receiving end, this man had said, no one's ever asked me that question, and they were both CEOs, and to this day, it's his biggest client. And I think when you create that human connection to understand, you know, what motivates people, understanding, you know, you talk about your team. I want to know my team's kids' names and their partners, and you know what their food preferences are and what movies they're watching. You have to understand what motivates people to show up every day, and that's really for me what's been the best part of leading.
Yeah, you're remarkable in that regard. When you remembered that Noelle and I had our kitchen remodeled, I was taken back.
Yeah,
So
no, I
yeah,
think it goes all the ways, and not just the team, but the amazing people you meet. And I know that you're a Kindred member, which, you know, puts us in, I guess, in something together. But
yeah,
maybe it's important to know for this broadcast that, you know, we met through Kindred, but you know we've really, you know, created a connection, created a relationship, and I'm lucky to know that, you know, your partner's name is Noelle, and that you just redid your kitchen and you love spending time there, and it's just wonderful to be able to form those relationships, also knowing we've never met in person,
yeah,
and
that's
it's still
exactly
possible.
right. Right, right. So, Elyssa, take us down your career path. It's fascinating. Tell us a little bit about it, and what lessons have you learned? You just shared some, but what lessons have you learned walking the path that you've walked?
Yeah, I went to school for advertising, and I started my career in that space. I started in the digital media world, working for media agencies. I had clients including GlaxoSmithKline, Warner Brothers, Frito-Lay. And what I learned during that time was I understood that that's not where I wanted to spend my career, but I wanted to understand how money moves through an organization because I saw where decisions and how decisions were being made. And so my first lesson in career building was that you need to understand how money moves across an organization to be part of any decision that matters and to get into the right rooms. I very quickly identified who those people were that were making those decisions. And I made it a point, if I was running out to get coffee, I'd stop by and say, "Hey, I'm going to go grab a coffee. Do you need one?" And it was making those immediate connections, because if I wasn't at the table, I was right outside the door knocking. Um, I think I learned a lot about relationship building at the time because you meet with so many vendors. And a testament to that was a phone call that I got from one of my vendors who was working at a new company called BuzzFeed. And he said, "Hey, I like working with you, and we're starting to build an advertising team. Any interest?" And I went in for an informational interview. I walked out with a job offer, and I ended up spending 7 years there.
Wow.
And over the
Yeah.
course of 7 years, I had 8 different jobs, and none of those were on the same team. I just zigzagged my way across the organization. What I understood to be true over the course of those 7 years was that I was a builder. I had entrepreneurship in me, because they would send me to go build a new product or a new team, and if it succeeded, I'd hire my replacement, and then I'd go build something else. And if it failed, we'd sunset it, and then I'd go build something else. And what I realized in those meetings, that being part of innovation teams, doing something new within an organization, just pushes you up. That people want to understand the new and the fun and the shiny toy in the room. The challenge there is that you don't want to be, you know, there so long that the shininess gets dull. But
Yeah.
if you can figure out a way to stay shiny throughout the organization,
Right.
it's a fantastic thing. Um, During my time at BuzzFeed, I also served as a chief of staff for a quite long period of time, and it was a humbling experience for me, because you got to understand you have to define a chief of staff role. And if you work for someone who's incredible, like I got to, and still serves as a mentor for me and as a Kindred member today, you have to align yourself Are you going to be your boss's eyes, their ears, or their mouth, or all three?
Mm.
And for me, that role was really helpful in becoming someone else's voice while not losing my own.
Mm-hmm.
And it needs to be a really special relationship in order for that to happen. But I learned more during that time than I did probably anywhere else within my 7 years, because I got to sit in all the rooms, be part of that decision making, and really build that muscle memory for
Yeah.
making business decisions and making them quickly. My final role at BuzzFeed was overseeing the NBC Universal investment in the organization, and so I got to flex some corporate development skills before I came over and led operations, and then became CEO of Kindred. But I think the big thing for me was relationship building, building trust, making sure no one ever questioned why you walked into a room. But probably most importantly is, once you hit a point where no one questions why you're in a room, make sure that you open the door for others. And
Yeah.
I have just as many mentees as I have mentors, people that I still talk to on a frequent, very frequent basis.
Yeah.
And I think all of that just builds us as people, no matter where we're working, because our job shouldn't define us.
Right. Yeah. That was beautiful. Thank you, Elyssa, for that. And there are so many people out there that I hear say, I want to start my own thing. I've just got this idea and I want to start my own thing, but something holds them back. And it could be any number of things, but they don't take that step forward. What would be your counsel to them to take that step forward and find out more?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm looking at you, Demi, and you started your own thing as well. And I don't know if you'd agree with this, but I'd first say, do you have an idea, and are you ready to execute it? Because an idea without execution is a dream. And if you're aligned that you want to spend your days working on this, that you want to build something, then it's not an easy feat to build something. And so I just always first ask that question when someone says, I want to build something. I typically say, well, do you want to execute it? And, because there's no shortage of visionaries out there who have a vision, but it's putting it to work that matters. I feel like that was a pretty negative way to kick it off, but I think the right answer is probably, then go do it.
Yeah.
I say that as an operator, and so I do believe that asking people, are they ready to execute, is probably the right gut reaction. But overall, our economy thrives on new businesses, and so what I would say is, if you're super passionate about something, if you genuinely want to spend your days making something easier, saving someone time, saving someone money, creating ease in someone's life, then go do it, because we need more of all of that. And typically new businesses are going to solve for one of those problems.
Yeah. And so you shared a lot about your family and the role that they play in who you are and your personal and professional life. But what about your circle of influencers or advisors? Do you have that?
Oh yeah, I have little circles everywhere. And I think it's important to have really different circles to tap into, depending on kind of what guidance you need. I have friends who are CEOs of big and small companies alike. And for me, it's really important to understand that sometimes you need different people for different things. And, I've met some people once or twice and we've exchanged numbers, figured out a way to support each other in big and small decisions. And so what I would say is, find the people that influence you, find the people that inspire you. Never be afraid to ask for advice. Never be afraid to ask for someone's number or email address, to say, hey, if something comes up, can I give you a call? The craziest of mentors for me have really started that way. I met a woman on a plane, and we sat next to each other. We opened our computers. We were going from New York to LA. This was 10 years ago. We exchanged email addresses, and I call her maybe once every 3 months.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing thing.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, thank you. Elyssa, thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing Kindred and the important offering that Kindred and community that Kindred brings to all of us who are leaders of organizations. And thank you for bringing yourself and sharing who you are and how you lead. If there was a message that you hope that our audience takes away from you and their time with you today, what would that message be?
If you take away one thing from today, I hope it's that you should start, that taking that first step is usually the most necessary one. And so I would just say, don't be afraid to start. I'd also say that I'm on LinkedIn. You can probably find me in many places, but if you want to start a conversation, if you want to continue one, if you have a question, I love meeting new people, and I hope you reach out.
Good. Thank you, Elyssa. I hope everyone will reach out to you too. Thank you for being with us.
And thank you, Demi, for the work that you do every day. I get to experience you. It feels like, maybe once a month we get to do our thing. And for your clients, for the work that you do, just kudos. It's been so impressive to watch the way that you have an impact on the people around you, and Women Making News is no different. So thank you. Thank you to the audience who tuned in today. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thank you. That was robust, and I'm feeling a great deal of excitement, but I want to now talk to you about sponsorship. Women Making News, at its core, offers scholarships to women who are deserving of leadership development, career coaching, life coaching, and that is only made possible through our monthly sponsorships. And now I want to introduce you to this month's sponsor, Anna Gaylor.
Hi, Demi. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Anna Gaylor, and I'm the Regional Director of Operations for Insurance Office of America. And I am in the Central Region, which is headquartered in Birmingham, Alabama. And Insurance Office of America is one of the largest privately held insurance agencies in the country. Women Making News is really all about women helping each other to meet their dreams and to achieve their goals. And it's truly a blessing to be able to sponsor a scholarship that impacts another woman directly. I've had the chance to work with a lot of very inspiring and motivating and generous women throughout my career. And Women Making News gives me the chance to pay it forward.
Thank you, Anna Gaylor. Thank you for your sponsorship. On behalf of Women Making News, we are grateful. We are grateful for you and your sponsorship. And because of your sponsorship, we were able to award a scholarship this month to Kimberly Anderson. Kimberly is a senior clinical research associate. She will be coached by Women Making News through her career transition. If you'd like to learn more about Kimberly and the work that she's done in her area, in her field, I encourage you to seek her out on LinkedIn or reach out to me and I can help you make that connection. Congratulations, Kimberly Anderson, on being awarded your scholarship from Women Making News. I want to thank all of you for being with us today. I want to encourage you to go to our website, womenmakingnews.org, learn more about the organization, learn more about sponsorship and donating and scholarships. and join us next month in June for our next broadcast.